with Roy Montero, and we're gonna get to know Roy a little bit better today. Roy, how you doing today?
I'm fabulous as per usual. Thanks, Deidre. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Thank you for letting me steal your Friday night. Do you usually have things to do on Friday night?
Oh, no, not at all. So the wife just got home. We ate. Now she's snuggling in watching some of her favorite shows that I could care less about. And then when it comes time, I'll come in and we'll watch the ones we like watching together. So that's usually our Friday nights.
Okay, cool, cool. So, Roy, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. One that I ask a lot of people. How did you end up in this great debate community and on YouTube?
Well, so Google Plus came around and then they had this feature called Hangouts. And so I'd rather talk than text. And so I felt right at home. What? I just got to download this and I can be on cam with peeps all over the place. I'm in. And so when I first arrived, I saw one person with a shingle. It said religious discussion. One person in there, Tim Brooks. And all the other, there were maybe about
Your
six,
Friday
seven
night.
of them. And none of them had any names. I could just see the pictures of the people that were there, their avatars. And I said, well, one person, I'll be able to talk. and I'm into religious discussion, and I never look back.
All right. And so, like, who were the first people that you met here?
Yeah, so like Tim would be the first one. Um, there's a lot of people from Tim's old room that I don't see anymore. So this whole community has done a complete uh, overflow of people because all the old people have flown over and aren't here anymore, and I don't see them anymore. And then about a year later, I met Nate, and that's when a few more people started to come around. So uh, Nate hung a shingle and made it Ask a Christian, and then it put in parentheses a religious discussion because he didn't want to take religious discussion from Tim or double up on what Tim was doing. Because Nate met Tim as well, and Tim was Nate's inspiration for doing Ask a Christian. And then I guess that went about a year or two, and in about the last year and a half, I'd say, is when the so-called great debate, now making air quotes, actually uh, crossed my path, so to speak. It's like, what? I'm in the great debate. I thought I was in a religious discussion community. So I guess there's two sides, or probably more, but I'm not looking at this as a great debate because I don't debate. It's not a favorite thing of mine to do, so I never debate. And if people get upset with me because I won't debate them, I think that's what's happening. It's like, if anybody knows me for 10 seconds, they know that I just put the truth on the table and then just leave it there for you to examine. And then you can either do one of two things, right? So, yeah, that's where I am from where I started. And that was like 4 years ago when I started with Google Plus Hangouts. So here we are 4 years later. Great
Oh,
question. Took me down memory lane a little bit. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. It's interesting to know like how people got here and stuff. I was brought here by an atheist. I mean, so there you go, an atheist
Yeah, there you
activist.
go. There you
So
go.
you never know. All right. So how long have you been a Christian?
28 years. So I'm 58 years young. And in my 30th year on planet Earth, my best friend of 10 years says to me, Roy, do you know you must be born again? I said, no, what's that? He told me. I said, I'm in. And that was that. And here I am 28 years later.
Now I've noticed that you talk about born again like a lot. Like that's something I've noticed that you brought up, or that you're made alive in Christ. What do you think that means as opposed to just saying, "Hey, I'm a Christian"? Like, how do you define that?
Yeah, another great question. So when I came to planet Earth, through my parents, from Almighty God, I was body, soul, and dead spirit. And I didn't know that until my friend Gene, who I'd known for 10 years, he was my best friend, still is, told me or asked me, "Are you born again? Do you know you must be born again?" And I said no. So when he explained it to me, he didn't explain it the way that I'm explaining it to you, because he said, "Why don't you come to church with me on Wednesday, because we're having a really cool sermon. It's how to raise a juvenile delinquent in 10 easy steps." I said, "I'm in. I get the wordplay on that, and I'm in." So as a new dad, I was with one child, a 2-year-old daughter, and I said, "Yeah, I need this information." So listened to the sermon. It was awesome. And that night, he took me into the back room where all the pastors were, and they basically led me through the gospel. And I said, "I'm in." And that was the time I noticed my entire life changed before me. And it wasn't like I was down and out and going through this or that. That wouldn't come until 2 years later, when my whole world was rocked, because my wife decided she doesn't want to be married anymore. So I kind of came unglued for a while. Okay, 4 years. And then said, "Okay, I can't do this anymore." And so left that situation, and then went in search of wife number two.
Now, so you've been married, remarried. Your wife left you. You got remarried. Did you feel that there was any pushback from the church from that decision? Like, do you like legalism or anything like
Oh
that?
no, not at all. No, no, absolutely not. That was just totally cool. They were very, 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 very. I can't say enough. Very supportive, because it is what it is. I mean, I'm not completely. No one is completely innocent when a divorce happens. Even though I did not want a divorce, I wanted to work out what it was that was. I thought we were okay, right? I didn't have a problem. I had no grievances, and all of a sudden I find out, oh. But then I find out almost 3.5 years later, that there was a lot of history in her background she never told me about, and that was kind of sort of manifesting. And so there were a lot deeper issues than just, "I don't want to be married to Roy anymore." And so, yeah, without getting too deep into the details and everything, I think you can read into that pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So your life kind of, you became a Christian. Your life kind of took this crazy turn on you, and now you're talking about it being better. So like, in which ways, like, would you say that Christianity's been beneficial to you?
Well, for one, if I wasn't a Christian when my wife decided to leave me on Valentine's Day, 1990,
Happy
uh,
Valentine's Day! Holy
thank
cow!
you. I know, right? Everyone since.
do,
So
do you have like, like memories every Valentine's
every
Day?
every year, there's no getting around it. This is just unfortunate. That was the day, and I can't forget. It's just, and it is what it is right now. It's neither a good thing or a bad thing. It just is a thing, as I like to say. So yeah. So my Christianity, if I wasn't a Christian 2 years in, and my faith wasn't as solid as it was, then I would have went through with what I tell people was my darkest time ever in my own head. And I had this thought. I lived in Bellflower, California at the time, and the thought was, oh, if I go through and do what I'm going to do here, the newspapers will read in the morning, "Bellflower man kills wife, kills kids, turns gun on self." That's what I felt like doing. I had never, ever felt suicidal, ever. Never had a suicidal thought, ever. But at that moment, that evening, I did. And I thought about it for a half a nanosecond and said, yeah, no, thanks. Um, could I have done it? Definitely. I was, as they say, ticked off enough to do it. Absolutely. But I had to rely on everything I had, and that wasn't enough. So I had to rely on God. And had is not a must. It was like, that was what I wanted to do first. And I did do that first, because as a Christian for 2 years, totally on fire for the Lord, he was preparing me for this. Because if he if he hadn't prepared me, he knew what I was going to do. I was going to kill all four of us. That's the way I thought. That's the way. So that was a reaction. I teach today that reaction and response. To respond is positive. To react is negative, always. So don't react. And the way you know you're reacting is because you're feeling and then thinking of the very next thing to do, which is wrong. It's wrong to kill my kids and my wife and myself. That's wrong. So this thought sucketh, right? So you don't have to be a Christian to know that. That thought just totally sucks. So, but I had the strength through my Christianity of 2 years to make that right decision. And so that was 20 years ago. And I hope that every decision I've made since then is the right one. At least they have felt to be right, and I haven't regretted any of them. So that takes me into where I am today.
These are really dark thoughts, and I think, anybody that struggled with depression or whatever, we've all had dark thoughts. But while I personally can grasp the idea of suicide, I don't grasp the idea of taking someone's life. Why is that? Is that the idea of sparing people pain, or what?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's basically it. I wanted, my kids were 4 and 1 at the time, and I didn't want them being raised by anyone else. And I felt betrayed enough to shoot my wife, but couldn't leave the kids by themselves, and I knew I was going to go. So yeah, it's just to stop all the pain. For the kids, for the wife, I think it was more anger. It was like, what? I thought you said till death do us part. What do you mean you want to do this? And it was like a shock to my system. That's why I say don't think about things before you do them. And if you know that it's wrong or against the law or against God, then yeah, don't do it. I'm always telling people don't do feelings. What do you mean don't have feelings? No, I said don't do feelings. Sometimes as a parent, don't we feel like killing our kids? Don't do it.
Oh, I hope most people don't, but yeah, like
Don't do
generally that wouldn't
feelings.
be a good
Yeah,
feeling, no.
yeah, yeah.
It's interesting too, because like a lot of that sounds like it's about control, and that's one of your critics, like, largest thing is that you're about control, and so like when life spins out of control, you want to gain control over it again, and I'm interested in how someone like you, who does seem to be keen on control, like, keen on being the boss of your life and seeing things black and white and stuff. And that's just my interpretation of what I see from you, Roy. My question to you is then, how do you submit to a God that is always in control when life is really out of our control a lot of times? Like, do you find it difficult to submit to God?
Oh, no, not at all. It's easy peasy, as I like to say. So when it seems, see, a lot of people misdiagnose me when they're not doctors. So that's the first time.
I'm not a doctor.
I know. So
So,
they say, oh, look at that guy. He's a control freak. And nah. So for those of you who don't know, it's not that I'm a control freak. It's just that I freak out when there's no control. And so when there is no control in my environment and I'm a part of it, I look around to see who's going to take control. And if nobody does, then I will. And so that shows up to some of you that perceive this. So, oh, look, he's a control freak. He always has to take control. No, someone just has to take control. I don't really care who it is. Someone take control. So I hope that puts that myth or perception to bed.
just an end to chaos then. Like somebody, it doesn't matter if it's you in particular. Just,
That's right.
okay.
Somebody end this chaos. Just get me out of here, or somebody take control of what needs control taken of. That's really what it's all about. So I don't I don't like it when people talk over me. I don't want to talk over people. And when it gets to that point, it's like somebody needs to step in, one person at a time. Because if all you're doing is stepping up to the podium and talking and you don't get anywhere, then I'm out. I'll say pass. The minute you hear me say pass to your question, it's because you now just want to go up to the podium and hear yourself talk. You're not even involved in what I'm telling you is on the table. And that's another big one for people is they want to take me to their table. I don't want to go. I just want to sit here and talk about what I just dumped on my table. And when I'm done talking about it, if you want to take me to your table and I want to go, let's do it. But don't take me in the middle of me showing you the stuff on my table. That's another biggie that a lot of people don't catch.
So who's the most influential spiritual leader or maybe author in your life, other than somebody in the Bible, like and Scripture and Jesus and all that, but just outside of the Bible, who do you think? Well, who are the most influential people for you in your journey?
So other than my parents, who did the early years, the latter years, I would have to attribute to Zig Ziglar and John Maxwell. Those are two people that it's already too late for Zig. I'll never be able to meet Zig face to face, but if I could meet John, John's just 65. So if he's going to live to 100 like I am, he's got another 35 years, and I might just meet him. Their work, their body of work, has absolutely turned me into the person that I am, simply because of their wisdom, their godly wisdom, not their worldly wisdom. So wisdom comes in different flavors. And so godly wisdom is unknown to the atheist, of course, and all they have is worldly wisdom and or their individual wisdom, which is pale in comparison to godly wisdom, because they never know when it's right or wrong. But when it's godly wisdom, you always know when it's right or wrong. And that's something that, I usually get in discussions with those who oppose me, the anti God people who decide to rail on the God people. And since I'm one of the more vocal ones and will attempt to destroy their worldview every chance they give me, um, yeah, that's how that usually works out and plays out. But again, if you don't understand what's happening, then you're going to get upset. No need to get upset. Just redirect the questions.
Do you think that we should respect people's worldview?
Not if it's wrong.
So so
So
so
let me ask you. So let me ask you this question. So if a person is wrong and you love them anyway because they're like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, should you marry them? That's my question. And if you do, and you get a divorce, will you complain about it? That's my point. So respect is love. Love is respect. You cannot have respect without love, and you cannot have love without respect. So, do I respect your wrong worldview? Absolutely not. That would be ridiculous. No one does. No one respects the wrong thing, the lie about anything. It's like, hey, that's a lie. Yeah, but I respect it. Really? You respect the lie? So, yes, of course, you ask anybody on planet Earth if they respect a wrong worldview, and they'll say, of course, I can't respect that, because then that would be respecting a lie. And who would be foolish enough to say that they respect a lie?
okay, so you don't respect worldviews that are found to be false, but then how do you respect the person that holds the worldview, even though you find that their worldview is false?
Oh, yeah, no, I totally respect the person because they may just have a case of they don't know what they don't know. Right. And that's simple enough to cure. So I respect the person, but I don't respect the worldview. And if they hold to it, I still respect the person, obviously, all the time. But what I don't respect is their worldview. I hope that makes sense because respect means love. I can't love a lie.
No,
Neither can anybody
I
else. You
don't
know what
know
I'm
if
saying?
there's. I don't know if I would call respect love. I don't know. I mean, I understand that that's how you're defining it, but I don't know if I define it that way. So,
Can you love somebody without respect? Yes or no?
don't yes or no me. I'm Captain Gray. Can you love somebody without respect? Not very well. It would be a selfish kind of love. There'd be something wrong with it. It'd be broken.
Yeah, so that's a no. And you can't respect someone without loving them. It's just not possible. The two are intertwined, and yet they are somewhat different in definition. So, my definition for love, biblical style, is this: love is not a feeling, love is a doing, love is a good doing for the other person always. And so you can feel love and you can feel the absence of love, but love is not a feeling, love is a doing. So if I love you, Deidre, I'm going to do the best for you, the best by you. And so if you're confused about something or you don't know something to be true and you think it is true when it's not true, then it would be my pleasure and honor to help you with that knowledge and course correction and everything else. That's what you and I are both commanded to do. And when both you and I are uh, understanding of that and adhere to that and go, yeah, the best way to do my life is what God has already planned it to be. Why don't I just go along for the ride instead of trying to make my own and fighting it and being miserable the whole entire way, which I think people without God do, even if they say they don't. They don't have anything to measure that against. So, yeah, and I love them to pieces. I do, and I'm pretty sure that everybody would say, no, Roy's never ever said a bad word about me. It's just I can't stand that guy's theology, which is not mine. It's God's because it's theology.
Max linked a verse, Acts 10:34. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, "Of a truth, I perceive that God is no respecter of persons." I guess God doesn't love persons. I mean, I don't know what your
Okay,
point
wait a
is,
second. Wait a
Max.
second. Yeah, Max is reading that incorrectly.
Yeah.
When the verse says no respecter of persons, that means that if uh, if God were the pastor of Church A, and you came in with sandals and shorts, you could sit down, even if everybody around you says you need a suit. That means he doesn't discriminate against anybody. No respecter of. It's not that he's not respecting people. He's not a. It's just the old English. You just got to understand. They changed the English on us in the last 400 years, guys. Sorry to say. And so that reads, he's not prejudiced or discriminatory, or he doesn't look down. Everybody's welcome. That's what that passage means. And is this person who's asking, are they a believer or not?
Well, Maximus is a Catholic, so yeah, he's a
Okay.
believer.
Okay.
You know
Yeah.
Max,
It just.
Epi. You know Epi,
Oh,
right?
Epi.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So no, I don't know his name's Max now. So yeah, yeah. We'll just leave it right there.
Times have changed on you.
I think I've been gone 4 months because I've been over at Blab for 4 months now, and I don't think I've been back since. Maybe once or twice, just because people said, "Hey, we haven't seen you for a while. You want to stop by?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, that's where I found you the other day, right? I was just stopping by to say, "Hey."
That's true. That's true. So okay. So when you do these black and white yes or no options, either apple or oranges, choose now, choose now. Um, do you feel like that's what we're called to do? That everything's just black and white, or do you think that there's some
Ab-
nuance here and there?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. So someone who says, "I'm not a boy. I don't know if I'm a boy. I could be a girl." No, no. Unless, of course, there's absolutely something that you're not of sound body. But I'm speaking of people who are of sound mind and sound body, who say such things. No, there's absolute right there. There's no denying that it's black and white. So if it's a gray area, it doesn't matter. I have no voice. You do what you want. But if it's black and white, then you do the wrong thing and you're going to get the consequences for it. You do the right thing and you're going to get the consequences for it. It's really that simple. Whatever you do, whatever decision you make, good, bad, or indifferent on your part, doesn't matter, and it doesn't override what it already is. If God says this is sin, then it is. And if God says this isn't sin, then it's not. But if you think it is, then he says, yeah, then you're right. It is sin to you. So to me, that's as simple as it gets. I mean, my child understands that, right? And I'm encountering grown men and women who don't fully grasp that as adults. And so I don't get it. I don't get it. And that's why I think they get angry, is because I stick to that subject and they want to go and jump on a different subject and just hear themselves talk, because it doesn't do me any good to jump from this particular topic that they don't get to another topic that I don't want to even be a part of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Max says, I'm curious to know what Roy means by respect. So maybe he didn't understand your definition or didn't hear it. My understanding was that you said respect means love. It's interchangeable.
Correct. If you don't love someone, you don't respect them. And if you love someone, you respect them. You can't love someone without respect, and you can't respect someone without love. So while they're not the same word, they go together. And then that helps you to understand the definition better with your definition for love. You just heard what mine was.
See, it depends to me on how you're defining respect. If you're putting somebody in a high elevation versus equal elevation to me, because sometimes respect can also mean that you put somebody on a high elevation higher than you, somebody that you would follow. And other times, like, it could mean something like, we're on equal ground. I respect that we are different. I understand that we are different. And all that means is that we've created some sort of boundary where you appreciate that you're different and stuff. Do you appreciate people's differences, Roy?
Absolutely, and I celebrate it every opportunity I get.
So I don't know, when you look at your personal life and the people that are involved in your personal life, do you have a lot of people with different belief systems in your personal life? People that think
Yes.
differently than you? Okay. So
Yeah.
how do you balance not respecting a worldview with having so many different people in and out of your life that think differently than you?
I'm not sure I follow the question. So someone has a worldview that is wrong. Go ahead.
Do you run around every dinner conversation and say your worldview is wrong? Let me tell you
Oh
how.
no, no, absolutely not. No, those people are not in my life anymore. No,
Oh,
no,
really? So
I
so
got
what?
no room.
So eventually, like, if your worldview is wrong, you get tossed out, or like, I'm just trying to see how
No,
you
it's not that you
operate.
get tossed out. Is that you don't belong there. You never get there. You know what I mean?
Interesting. So
Mhm.
everybody that's closest to you then is Christian.
For the most part, yeah. If I were to take inventory, I'd probably say yeah. Or they act like a Christian. They may not be Christian, but they act like one. So as long as they don't act like a non-Christian, I'm good. You understand? Because I don't know if they are or aren't. That's between them and God. But as long as they don't rock the boat every 5 seconds, I'm in. So if they happen to be secretly, non-believers, then I'd never know it.
Charles points out that there's three positions: God or no God, and I don't know. What do you think of that?
No, that's bunk. Of course, you know. To say I don't know is ridiculous.
I
I keep telling people, if you don't know, get with someone who does. Okay, it's really that simple. It's like 2 seconds later, you can know the answer. And I don't know what it is you're waiting for. If it's death you're waiting for, well, then I get it. Two positions: God or no God. I don't know. Get with someone who does, because obviously someone does.
Do you think that no God is an honest position?
No, no, absolutely not. It just shows me what they don't even know that they don't even know. You understand?
So that they are in darkness. I guess I have a follow up question with that. Then when you're talking to non believers and stuff, I guess I'll get into some theology. Are you a Calvinist or an Arminian or open theist? How would you identify yourself?
Yeah, none of those. Whatever's left is that's who I am.
Molinist? Thomist?
No, I'm a disciple of Christ. You can unpack that any way you want. I do it biblically.
Okay, so you have no idea how grace is distributed,
Of
or
course I
you?
do.
How's it distributed?
Okay, I'm not quite sure. How do you say it's distributed? Let me see if I can contrast that.
I think that Christ died for everyone's sins, and that the atonement is final, and the debts have been paid. But I believe that the gift of grace actually does have to be picked up, that you actually do have to choose, and that there might be some sort of synergy working together, and that you are working together with God's will. While I believe that grace is free, I do believe that you have to choose to align your will with God's, and that God isn't going to knock down your door and drag you to heaven. To be with Him. So
I totally am following you, and I would say I find no fault with your definition. You're absolutely correct, and I would say check. If there was a checkbox next to what you just unpacked, I would say check. I'm in.
so you might be leaning towards Arminian.
Whatever you call it, it's very simple. The Bible says, love God, love others as yourself. And in that, you've got it all covered. Every single do or not do is covered in that. How easy peasy is Christianity? You know?
Do you think that everything in your Christian walk has been easy?
No, absolutely not. For 4 years, it was the hardest time of my life. But it's easier than if I would have went through it myself. Because if I would have went through it myself, I would have been in jail. And here, 20 years later, I'd probably be serving a life sentence or maybe facing the death penalty. And the last 20 years of my life would have been in jail without my family. So that would have been ridiculous. So um, I can only say that by the grace of God, of which we're talking about, am I who I am and where I am today. And because if I was left to my own devices, yeah, I would have followed through with my stupid feelings, just like most people do, which gets them into trouble.
Well, there is this thing that a lot of psychologists think that we choose things based on feelings first and rationalize things later. What do you think about that?
I'm not quite sure I followed that. So if we have a decision to make and we follow this path, I think you kind of hinted towards that. Can you share that path? If I'm even on the right path to even, so give me point B. What is it that I'm
The point, the
looking to
point,
solve?
the point I'm saying is that some psychologists think that we make decisions, whatever they are, based on feelings, and then rationalize them later. Whether it's a financial decision, whether it's
I,
relational,
yeah,
whether
I
it's
think that's the default
spiritual.
state. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the default state. I don't think that's the godly state. That's the human state, the unregenerate human state. And it doesn't serve people well to do that in most cases. I'm not going to say in every case, but I'm going to say in most cases. You never had that question before. That's a good question.
When you talk about prayer, what do you think that prayer does exactly? Do you think that we should ask and receive, and this kind of, we see Joel Osteen kind of has this name it and claim it kind of theology going on, prosperity almost, or do you think it's more like Kierkegaard? Prayer doesn't change the nature of God, but changes the nature of one who prays. Like, what do you think the purpose of prayer is?
Yeah, that's another great question. So for me personally, it's prayer and meditation. So if I'm having an interview with you or just a fireside chat with you, which I think this is more of a fireside chat than maybe an interview per se,
Yeah,
but
I'm
we're just,
I'm chill. This is chilled out
yeah,
hangout.
exactly. Exactly. We're just like you said, we're just chill. We're just two people who know each other just going a little deeper, and I love that because this is what I'm all about. So for me, uh and I just lost my train of thought. Help me.
I was
Sorry.
asking about prayer, like what role does
Prayer and
it play?
meditation. There we
Yeah.
go. There we go. Yeah. So what is it? What's prayer? What's prayer and meditation? What is that? So I want to equate it to my life with my earthly father. So the example that he taught me is what he told me my heavenly father wants for me as well. And so the way I love and interact with my earthly father is exactly the same way I interact and interask with my heavenly father. It's the same thing. When I go to him in prayer and meditation with all thanksgiving, I expect to get the exact results of which I ask him because his promise to me is if you ask anything according to my will, you will have it. That is cool. That's what my dad used to tell me. If you ask me for something and that's in my power to give it to you, I will. And if it's not, I'll tell you I can't. But God will always give you what is right for you. So if I'm asking for a Swiss Army knife full of blades that could cut me at age 2 because I saw my 10-year-old cousin have one, yeah, my pops probably won't give that to me. And I'm going to probably feel, right, all kinds of negative and he don't love me and why not and blah, blah, because I don't see the danger, because I don't see what I don't see. I don't know what I don't know. And so for me, prayer and uh, meditation along with supplication is paramount for me. So if I know something that God wants to give to me, then I will pray along those lines. I go an inch wide and a mile deep. You got to be very specific. Zig Ziglar, who you asked me about earlier, one of my role models and mentors, if you will, in my later life, um, talks about that. And I remember a lot of these quotes when it pertains to what's going on in my life. And so uh, I ask the right questions, or as right as I think that they could be or should be. I go by what Maya Angelou says: do the best you can, and when you know better, do better. And so that's what I pray. I say, Lord, make me aware of the things that I'm not aware of that you want me to be aware of. Do you think he wants me to answer that prayer? Or excuse me, do you think he's going to answer that prayer for me? The answer is yes. He's going to make me aware. Now, how is that going to happen? I don't know. I don't know. That's why I need to be on the lookout because I know at least 4 ways that he talks to me through his word directly, the Bible, through my spirit, which I now have the Holy Spirit, or through people, or through circumstances. Now, there's a host of other ways that he can speak to me, but, you know, uh, I don't know and I don't anticipate them. So I just anticipate these 4. And usually within the allotted time, I will know or not. So some things have been on my prayer list for 19 years. That's the longest thing on my prayer list right now. Uh, but I know it's going to happen one of these days. I just keep it on the prayer list. So I know I probably gave you a little bit more detail than you asked for, but there it is.
No, that's all right. I'm always interested in how people interpret prayer, their experience with it, and stuff like that. I think it's an interesting conversation to have because I notice a lot of times the skeptics and atheists often bring up G-Man's version of prayer, his definition and how it works, and so I'm always really curious to ask that with other believers now. Kind of, it's one
Oh,
of those
that's
things.
interesting. So I would not even be able to answer any of those questions about G-Man because I have no idea.
Yeah, and which I mean, G-Man can answer his own questions, so we don't need to. We don't need to. You know.
No, and I was just throwing out an FYI because I have no clue. Yeah.
Um, So, all right. So, what do you think about philosophy? Do you think philosophy has uses? Things like that.
If philosophy lines up with scripture, it is useful. If it does not, throw it away.
Do you think at least it's an exercise of the mind, even if you don't agree with the actual philosophy that you're
How do
learning?
you how do you know if you're right or wrong when it comes to philosophy? You don't.
How do you know if a
Throw it out.
doctrine's right or wrong? Like a secondary doctrine. Like, how do you know if that's right or wrong?
Just the Bible will tell you. The Bible in and of itself will tell you everything you need to know. You don't need anything additional to the Bible to understand the Bible. And so if people say, "Oh, you need philosophy to figure this out," it's like, well, that's a bunch of bahugala. I think philosophy in every single case will put you in a worse place than if you left it alone.
Do you ever, when people challenge us believers on our faith and challenge us, how do you prove there's a God and things like that? Have you ever doubted God's existence?
Never. And neither is anybody else.
Have you ever doubted the character of God or not understood the character of God?
Never. Never. It was easy peasy right from day one.
So
Because it's
easy
so
peasy.
simple, right?
So what is the character of God?
Character of God is like your daddy. And if you didn't have a good daddy, then I do apologize.
I didn't have a good daddy.
Then what you need to do, right? And I know that a lot of kids did not have good daddies. There's more kids that did not have good daddies than had good daddies. So, like I always say, if you don't know what you don't know, then get with someone who does. If you don't know what it's like to have a good daddy, get with me. I can tell you. And you need to get with as many people who had a great dad and a great mom as possible and learn about that relationship because that is the one that you will have, should have with God. And the reason you don't is because you don't know what you don't know. So get with someone who does. It doesn't get any easier than that.
I do think it's interesting because there are these images, when you grow up in church and stuff like that, of this loving father and this quote unquote sky daddy, as our critics like to call it, and and I always really struggled with that image because my father figure was terrible, and it wasn't I think it was about middle school where I made friends with the pastor's daughter in my church. I went to a big Baptist church, Reformed Baptist, and they were the real deal. I mean, they were just
Mm,
loving people. And he
mm,
was our pastor, so there was kind of a little intimidation factor there because he's our pastor. You don't want to mess around with
sure,
him. But,
sure.
extremely kind, extremely generous, extremely loving, extremely authentic, extremely real. Somebody that he treated me like an extension of another daughter. You know,
That is awesome. See,
and so I
that is
took that
awesome.
image and I borrowed it. I borrowed it to try to help supplicate that idea.
Yes, yes, this is exactly it. So, I would do that as well if there are people who are my daughter's age or my granddaughter's age or that kind of stuff, then I can relate. I can relate. It's hopefully can they relate? And obviously you did. So that's great. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's about. And I know people will fight me and say, no, statistics say this and statistics say that. Well, I get you. But I tell you what, um, you can use Billy Graham as an example, right? So it's pretty obvious that his son's life was out in the open. And yeah, he rebelled against Pops. So even, if you're the child of Billy Graham, there's going to be rebellion. And you have to think, how's that even possible? But it happened. But what also happened? He came back like the prodigal. And so that in and of itself is testament to having godly parents, and especially a godly father who will emulate God for you. And yeah, I can see if you don't have a really, really, really good father who emulated God for you in the right way, where you would today say, if there was a God, where was he? And since he didn't, come to my aid, he don't exist, because a God would have came to my aid and did this and did that to said persons, my dad, my mom, whomever. That's what I think they think. And they have never been able to shake that, because that was their thoughts as a kid. And they never necessarily compared notes with people at this level. And so they're just kind of sort of stuck there. A lot of people are stuck and they're in ruts and they don't even know it. And that's why there's so much misery and so much evil that befalls people who do this kind of stuff. Not saying that, those of us who are not like that in our thoughts have it easy peasy. Well, we don't. You just found out, it's like, as a Christian, my darkest days came as a Christian, and they will, because that's when the forces of evil want to attack you even more. Because if you're already on their side, there's no need for them to attack you. You're already on their side. They just lull you into a trance, like the frog in the pot, where the water's just, turned up a little at a time. And that's really what's happening in our society, and more so than ever before in the history of mankind. The Bible says so. We can see it. Okay.
So, I'm fascinated by your black and whiteness, because I think I live in the nuance and the gray a lot, and my husband's black and white. He's a Christian. He's black and white, but when I ask him the hard questions, he actually literally says, "I just don't think about it," which is fine, I guess. It's honest. I just don't think about it. When you're challenged with biology and you're challenged with this, what do you do? I just don't think about it. Okay. I think about it. I'm one of those people that I constantly think about
I
it.
do too. I do too.
So when you're dealing with this is so clear to me in scripture, and this is obvious that I love what is good, I hate what is evil, and then you're dealing with the world, which is completely, I feel like, subjective and extremely muddled up, and like let's just bring it into the realm of politics as an example. You don't have to tell us your political party or anything like that, but when you look at, like, say, Republican Party and Democrat Party, you could find good and bad in each party. And so how do you take a obvious, this is good, this is evil view, and then apply it to such a muddled world?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I understand the question. So if I know what's right or wrong, then even when the person who is, you know, wrong in their thinking about said truth, uh, yeah, I'm not sure about the muddled part. So,
But we have to make decisions, right? We have to make decisions sometimes, like weird decisions, like say your wife is bleeding out while she's having a kid, and the more beneficial thing that you could say to her is, "You're gonna be fine," when you think maybe she's gonna die. Like things like that aren't as black and white. Well, you just kind of sort of told a lie, but you did it for the benefit of somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh no, no, not me. No, I would never lie to my wife. No, ever. No, I
you'd
haven't.
say, "I think you're gonna die."
No, I don't know any better. I don't know if she's going to die or live, so I wouldn't tell her either one. What with that? That's not necessary to tell her something. Now, if she's in shock, you need to get me out of there, because I don't know what to tell people in shock, because I will go into shock if you're in shock. I already know that. So I can't do anything medical for anybody who needs any kind of help. It's like I will yell for help. That's the best I can do, because when I hear the word impale, my wife knows what's coming next. I'm about ready to faint, because that's how medical I am not. Her, on the other hand, she's in the medical field, and yeah, she like looks at videos of gallbladder operations and stuff with her girlfriend over coffee in their younger days. Not so much anymore, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I got what you're gonna say. Um, I mean, it isn't often that the Bible condones a lie. I guess one example would be Rahab hiding the spies. That would essentially be a good lie, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I do think that there's some things that are kind of in the gray. If you look at the Underground Railroad, that was largely ran by Quakers, they would be doing something kind of in the gray zone. It's not like they or necessarily out forthright and telling the truth of what they were doing, but they were doing something in the greater good. So, I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that there might be some
No, are you ever
circumstances.
saying that when you lie, it's okay?
Yeah, I think like in the case of the Underground Railroad,
No,
yeah, that would be
no,
okay.
no, 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 no. So if it's a lie, it's always wrong, and if it's not a lie, then it's always right. Capiche?
So if you were being hunted down because of your faith, and I said, "What Roy? I don't have any Roys that live here, and you're hiding in my attic," would I be wrong?
If you lied, you're wrong. Yes.
What if I omit the truth and I sort of lie by omission?
So if you don't lie, you're fine. If you lie, you're not so fine. And just for those people who don't know what happens after you lie, a consequence comes. Your nose doesn't grow long. No,
It doesn't.
that no, that's a myth. All that happens is that to the degree of which you are disobedient to God, to that degree will you be cursed. Okay, the Bible uses the word cursed. So you may not like the consequences unless you're totally into pain and horror and anguish and all these negative stuffs that happen to us. And some people, I guess, are, but that would not be a sound mind or a sound body, I don't think. But anyway, my point is, if you lie, there's always negative consequences. If you don't lie, there's always positive consequences. So just because you say, no, somebody's not here, doesn't mean that, you're going to lose a leg or something like that because you lied. I think that's an extreme consequence to think that that's going to happen. So sometimes parents teach their kids these extreme things. I can remember when my parents told me, if you eat these watermelon seeds, blah blah blah, right? I think we've all heard that. So that's supposed to keep the kid from eating them. Uh, didn't happen here. So it for me, it's real simple. A lie is always wrong, and there's consequences. And if you try to justify it, you can, but you're still going to get the same consequences, maybe even a little bit more for yeah, for the additional sin that you just had in attempting to justify a lie, because I think that in itself is an additional sin on top of the lie. Go ahead.
Interesting. Are you? Would you describe yourself as a divine command theorist?
No, because I have no idea what the heck that is.
Okay. Okay, so I guess I'm going to ask you a couple questions then, because you do kind of come on as sort of an evangelist of sorts. And so I'm going to sound like an absolute snob, but I'm actually just wanting to pick your brain. So I'm going to ask you a snobby
Yeah,
sounding
that's fine.
question. Do you read theology, or are you into Christian living? Or do you think, I guess I'm asking you a few things. What do you think of church history, Christian living, and theology? Those books outside of the Bible.
Yeah, never. None of those things interest me, nor do I need them.
Okay.
That's about as
So it's
quick as I
just
can get to all of that.
Roy, Scripture, and the Holy Spirit.
So all I need is the Holy Spirit, right? Once I have the Holy Spirit, He will lead me into all truth. I don't even need the Bible,
Okay.
but the Holy Spirit will lead me to the Bible because I need the Bible. There's a paradox there, but not really. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? It's like none of us are seeking God. So if somebody says, I found God, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. And God didn't find you either because you were never really lost to God. You were just lost in your trespasses and sins. That's it. That's all. So when a person knows who they really are, the choice is obvious. I want life. I don't want death. Give me blessings, not cursings. But people who are railing against the truth for whatever reason, um, not so much. So go ahead.
What do you make of it when I believe it's Jesus that says that the rain falls on both the good and the wicked?
Oh, that's because the weather doesn't matter. If you're a good person or a bad person, you're still going to have the trials of life, the storms of life, and all of that stuff. It doesn't matter. It's the same.
So how do you know
Um,
when you're experiencing a curse or a blessing? I
oh,
actually
because
struggle with that idea actually myself. Like, how do I know
right,
when there's a
because
blessing or a curse? What actually I think
you
might be a
you
blessing could be a curse, right?
you don't. That's the beauty of it. You don't know. So you have to live by faith. So if you believe that something that just entered your life because you need to go through it, just like it says in James, right? You take the whole entirety of the Bible, you take the whole entire truth of the Bible, and you apply everything. So in James it says, don't be surprised when you get hit upside your head with trials and tribulation. But rest assured, they're there for the testing of your faith. It's like, oh, something bad just happened to me. Oh, well, that was good because God is now testing my faith, not for him, but for me, because I don't know how faithful I'm going to be in this situation. And my trial came when my first wife said, it's not you, Roy, it's not the kids, it's me, I'm out of here. That was my first big trial. And it took me 4 years, but it was 4 years well spent. I'm grateful that God allowed me to come out of that as pain free as possible because there were a lot of pain. There was a lot of pain. And but I knew that. I knew what I was up against. And so I knew everything that I would do would probably not necessarily produce a blessing, but might produce a cursing. And I even went against some biblical counsel that my friends and or people that I went to, biblical counselors, simply because I had to be me. I was told back off from the relationship. I couldn't do that. I moved into the relationship knowing full well what the consequences would be, and I suffered them anyway. So that's how I knew a curse was coming because I was being disobedient. If you're disobedient and you get consequences, probably the curse. But if you didn't do anything wrong and you're getting all of this, it's not anything you did. It's not a cursing. It's a blessing. But it feels like a cursing because you got to withstand the temptation, the trials, the tribulations that come along with it. As a Christian, we are promised that daily. And even more so because the more you do for Christ, the more Satan and his cohorts want to do to thwart you. They don't need to be around people who are just already, in a trance and not even aware that their eternal soul is in jeopardy.
So what do
So
you make of Christians that are like terminally ill and they have like bone cancer or something crazy, or people who are Christians and they're faithful Christians and good people? Like everybody go, oh my gosh, these people are good people, and their child is dying of heart disease, before age 5. Are those blessings or curses? And how would you know? Like from our point of view,
it's
how can
always
we
a blessing.
tell?
It's always a blessing. If God gives you a gift and takes it back prematurely, remember, a wife and kids are gifts from God. If God gives you a gift, he's not an Indian giver. Okay? He allows his permissive will to be in play. So if your child died because somebody made a mistake, it was human error or whatever, whether you know it or not, understand it or not, doesn't matter. God will turn that around for your good. So anything that you think is a tragedy and a cursing, even when it isn't, God will turn it around for your good. But that's only for his kids. If you're not his kids, you're on your own. So if you are a Christian couple who had seen their baby for 5 days and she dies, there's definitely a lot of grieving that needs to take place. And because of all of that grieving, they now get to decide if they're going to get better or bitter. And if you have the love of God in your heart, you're going to get better, no matter how painful it is, because you now know that your mess is going to become your message. You can now help other people who are going to go through that, are going through that, have went through that, and still haven't made peace with what was supposed to be a blessing and not a cursing. and they got stuck there. So God has you to help to impact all these other people who you can impact. And you need to know this. And you'll never know this unless somebody comes to you and tells you this, because you're not necessarily going to search for this. And you're not necessarily going to know that reading the Bible on your own. So that's why you need to assemble with the brethren and the sisterin, and
The
often.
sisterin, I like it. The sisterin. Okay, so back to the brethren and the sisterin. I'm going to kind of segue into a different area a little bit. Would you consider yourself? What do you think of like charismatic gifts? Things like speaking in tongues and healing, faith healing, or laying on the hands and healing, speaking in tongues, being slayed in the spirit, things like that. Do they still happen now?
As far as tongues, it's the least of the spiritual gifts. I don't care for them. I don't pray for them. I don't want them. I don't have them. I asked for the higher gifts, the gifts of prophecy and teaching, and I do believe that I do. The teaching, the understanding prophecy, the black and whiteness. I have all the signs of someone who has the gift of prophecy, but there's no such thing as a prophet today, because
No,
Christ is
nobody
the
likes
end.
prophets. It never
Right.
ends well with the prophet. I'm just saying,
Exactly.
nobody likes the prophet.
Nobody. Nobody. Not even the prophet themselves sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
true.
lonely job, right? Yeah, you got that right.
It's well, I always notice that there's two kinds of prophets, right? Like from my perspective, the Bible is that there's the prophet that says, "Turn from your ways, you're messing up," and they're pointing it out, like this is why you're doing something that's wicked, and so they're like God ordained, and they're showing a mirror to people and going, look, this is what you look like. You need to change. This is, you need to turn from your ways." And there's that kind of prophet, and then there's prophecy, like future oriented prophecy. So when you say prophet, I oftentimes will ask, what kind of prophet are you? Are you talking about somebody that has to share the blunt truth, and usually those guys end up stoned? Or are you talking about someone that tells the future, which also sometimes they end up stoned too? But usually people get really angry at prophets. Like it's almost always in the Bible. People are not happy to see the prophet.
Yeah, as far as this time in history, uh, if you have the gift of prophecy, you don't have the gift of seeing into the future. That is a bunch of bahugala. So if anybody tells you that they can do that, they are immediately to be known as a false prophet. Don't have anything to do with them. So the gift of prophecy is very simply someone who knows the Word of God and makes course corrections for people who don't know what they don't know. So if you don't know what you don't know, and I hear you talking about what you don't know, then I will put the truth in front of you and then have you examine it. And then once you're done examining it, you can do one of two things. You can profess it or you can suppress it. Just tell me what you're going to do and move on. It's really that simple. That's what I believe the gift of prophecy is in my life. Now, if God sees a fit to give someone else the gift of prophecy and they exercise it differently than I do, then I think that's still a-okay with me, because it doesn't say exactly how the gift of prophecy or the gift of anything is going to be exercised by said people. There's no, oh, you got to exercise it twice a day. On Tuesdays, face west. On Wednesdays, face east. No, there's no such thing like that. So each of them are guided and directed by the Holy Spirit, who will lead you into all truth. So if you live in the Spirit and not in the flesh, you will do well every single day.
Unless the rain falls on the good.
Well, you're going to get wet no matter what. So there's no escaping that.
I'm a big fan of Ecclesiastes too, which is which is a
Yeah,
little
no,
bit
so am
grim.
I. So am I. I love what Solomon had to say. If the wisest person in history ever, before, during, or after, I want to sit at his feet and listen to what he has to say. Absolutely, and take everything as gospel truth, which, of course, the unbeliever does not. Because if they did, then they would realize it's like, oops, what am I doing on this side? This is not even a real side. This is just fantasy land. It's like a land in Disneyland. It doesn't even exist. But then again, that's what they say about us, right? So it's okay.
I'm delusional, crazy. So all right, so when we're talking about unbelievers, is there are there unbelievers that you value, like they're good at something, like maybe they're good leaders, or they're good people or good humanitarians and things like that? Are there unbelievers that you can recognize and say you're really good at these
Mm,
things?
mm. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Everybody has a talent. Unbelievers don't have gifts. That's given at the moment of conversion, so they don't have any spiritual gifts, and so therefore they can't exercise any spiritual gifts, but they can certainly exercise their talents. And some of the most talented people on the planet are unbelievers. Go figure, right?
Do you respect their talents and abilities?
Do I respect their talent?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have
Absolutely.
you ever met an unbeliever that you think you could learn from?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Every one of them, if they want to pour into me. But if they never pour into me, I don't expect it after, like, 2 or 3 hours of not pouring into me anything. It's like, well, that's not going to happen. So some of them refuse to, but they can if they want to.
Charles asks, "How do you know the truth? Please explain that. I get really turned off when you say that. Could, someone else could say the same thing. How do you determine who's right?" It's hang on, I'll link it in the side chat so you can see. Charles asks, "How do you know the truth? Please explain that. I get really turned off when you say that. Someone else could say the same thing. How do you determine who is right?"
Well, I don't mean this to be disrespectful or anything like that, but for me personally, all I did was just read.
And so it just is blatant to you, like like clear as
It's
day.
like it's like black and white. It's like Jesus says, "I am the truth, the way, and the life." It's like, well, I don't believe Jesus is the truth. Okay, well, he just said he was, so you're gonna have to take it up with Jesus. Well, I don't believe he really lived. Anybody could say that. Okay, whatever. It's like, I'm done. It's right there in black and white and red. Because some of the things he said. Okay, wait. All the things he said are in red.
I like the red letters.
I do too. It's easier. It's quicker. It's like very elementary. He made it lowest common denominator.
When people bring critique to you, like people don't like some of the way you deliver things, do you take it into consideration, or do you think that it's, dare I say,
Absolutely. I
persecution?
take everything into consideration when I speak. Yes, absolutely, I do.
Gotcha. I'm just looking to see if there's any questions. Yeah, there's a criticism saying that you'll basically you look for the things that align already with your beliefs. Like if a non-believer, aligns with you already, then maybe you'll take them into consideration. But if they don't, then perhaps you don't.
If a person doesn't pour into me within 2 hours, I'm out.
What do you mean pour into you? Invest highly into you, or
Yeah, if they're absolutely worthless, then I don't need to invest any more time with said person. Some people are not worth much when they decide to sling their mud at people. Just because they don't know what they don't know doesn't mean that the person they're slinging mud at doesn't. And so I have no use for people like that. And I'm sure that you don't either. I'm sure that no one does. I mean, if anybody would say to me after 2 hours, that person didn't pour into me one time and I poured into them for 2 hours, and I now want out, and it's rude to that person because they're like, what? You're not going to be my friend anymore? No, you didn't pour into me. It needs to be win-win, mutually beneficial. Don't you understand that? No, I don't. It's like I always hang around people that I leech off of. Oh, I mean, I didn't mean to say leech. I meant to say I'm a go taker. Yeah, I'm just here to take. I really don't have anything to give, but I just like to make, uh, dissension, chaos. That's what I found that,
Interesting.
a lot of
I view
people
it
are
really
like,
differently. So like for me, like I look at it instead of what can you offer me? What can I offer you?
oh, I
And
already know what I can offer them. So I pour into them for half an hour and then I listen to them for half an hour and no one poured anything back into me. It's like, I'm done.
interesting. I look at it that not all relationships are give and take. I look at it differently. I look at not everybody needs to be written off. How do I know? I don't know the end game of other people. I don't know where they're going to end up. I don't know their all their life story and all their pain. Even if I think I do, I don't know it. I don't know their future. So I guess I'm really slow to write off people. I write off dangerous people. People that I think are dangerous get written off. No, I
I would
mean
hope so.
seriously, like
No, I
dangerous
would hope
people.
so. Yes, I would definitely hope so. So I was slow to let the wrong people in my life go, but then I didn't know who the wrong people in my life were. I let a lot of people in my life for the first 38 years that I shouldn't have. And I haven't let those types of people back in, and my life has just been moving along at lightning speed. They're like anchors.
See, I look at relationships sort of like orbits, right? Or like if you can imagine like a dartboard, and like there's people that are in my most intimate circle, right? And then it goes out, and there's another outer ring, and there's another outer ring, and there's another outer ring. So just because you're over somewhere by Uranus doesn't mean that you're necessarily out of my circles. It just means that I'm not going to share you my most intimate, deepest secrets ever, or share my heart constantly with you. But it doesn't mean that you're written off as a person, and it doesn't mean that you can't move closer into ring ever again or things like that. So I tend to put people in different orbits. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
No, it does. It does. And I can see from your vantage point where that would make sense. I just don't have the bandwidth for that. See, the people that have to come into my life, they need to meet my bar, not their bar. And they don't have a second chance um, during the first meeting. The second chance comes, they have to take a number and get back in line and prepare for me a little bit more so that when we have that conversation again, we're not talking past each other.
Yeah, I gotcha. Um, so you and I have hit on religion quite a bit. I think I'm going to segue a little bit out of the religious talk and kind of into you and kind of how you operate and stuff. And I don't know how much you want to talk about your business or anything like that. So I'm going to just tread carefully, and you can type on the slide
Yeah,
chat.
just ask and I'll
So
tell you what. Yeah, and
so
if
you're
I have an
into what
option.
personal coaching is what I understand, or career coaching or something like that, right?
No, I'm actually into education. So I
That's a
don't
big
consider
word. I
myself a
don't know what that is. You're gonna have to define
well,
it.
it's just friends educating each other. So I don't do what coaches do. I don't do what consultants do. I don't do what trainers or mentors or uh, what else is there? Um, yeah, there's all kinds of names for people who do what I do, and none of those things actually really fit me. The closest thing I could probably say would be mentor or trainer. Never a coach. I don't want to be a coach. I want to or teacher. That was the one I forgot. Teacher and student. So I don't even want that. I don't even want to teach people things. I just want to share information with them that is true and can help them to transition through where they're stuck. Because if you're not growing on a daily basis, you're stuck. And if you're stuck, you need to get unstuck. And if you don't know you're stuck, then you fall into my category when I say you don't know what you don't know. So you need to get with someone who does. Unfortunately for you, I'm right here. So here's what I see is the hang up and the stuckness after asking you just a few questions. Usually within 15 minutes, I can tell where you're stuck and what you need to do to get unstuck. So I will just make suggestions and then you do whatever it is that you need to do. And if you need more help, you can come back. That's basically what I do.
So that will probably involve a lot of social media work and stuff like that too, right? And connecting and
Yeah, absolutely. It's building relationships, and the only way to do it is to build relationships one person at a time.
how many
But
of those
while you're doing,
relationships do you throw out, Roy? Huh?
oh, I don't throw any
Okay.
of them out. They just can't come in because they don't know how. They're not prepared for me. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know if this is what he meant, but when I had my personality assessed over 5 years ago,
Are we talking about
the
Myers Briggs or?
no, it was a completely different thing. It was only two questions. I don't know if I've ever done them with you. It's the symbols. It's
Yes, yes, yes.
the shapes.
You said I was a chameleon.
Ooh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome because you're pretty well rounded in all your personalities. So
Jack
you
of all
can,
trades, master of
yeah,
none.
and can master all of them. Yes, no, you can. So he kind of mentioned to me that my personality type, there's only like 7% of the world's coaches could coach me. So he didn't expound on that, and I didn't have time to ask him all the nuances of what he said. So I don't really know what he means by that. So 93% of all coaches can't coach me. So I don't know why they can't coach me. Is it because I'm not coachable to them? Or is it because they don't know how to extract from me? I don't know. So I just left it alone and I'm not reading into it. But since you just brought up what you did, it made me think of that. So do you know what a coach does? And if you do, would you be able to coach me?
I I I don't think I have the personality of a coach. I think a coach is somebody that exhorts, like in a pushy way, encourages in a pushy way, sets a standard and pushes you towards that standard. And I'm more of a, I don't know what I am. I'm an advocate. That's what I am. I'm an advocate. I'll advocate for you.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, I understand the advocate personality type. That's awesome. Do you know your Myers Briggs?
Yeah, I'm a ENFP, which is the champion. So,
ENFP, nice.
yeah. So, uh, yeah, people person, kind of. But, we're kind of weird because life is a journey and we're not as rational as some of the other thinkers. So we'll come to the right conclusion oftentimes. Oftentimes, dare I say. But the rational thinkers will go, I don't know how you did that. And I can't really explain how I did it,
And you
but
can't explain it, of course,
it's all
because therein
intuitive
lies the
and
end. Exactly. It's
internal.
all intuitive.
So
Yes.
like I'll grab like my perception of the world and I suck in all sorts of viewpoints and I read the Bible obviously clearly. I suck it all in. I internalize it. I play with it. I imagine life with these viewpoints and I spit them out pretty much. But I internalize them and I think about them and stuff like that. Almost like if you remember James Dean, what are those character actors where they kind of like assume the character for a week? It's almost kind of like that, but internally. Like
Yeah.
I
Something with the word method
method
something
actor, method actor.
yeah.
I'm like the
Yeah.
method actor of inquiry, right? So
Yes.
so and it's just how I operate. And for me that brings compassion towards other people. And a lot of people say that's a risky way to go about things. You're gonna lose your faith, or you're gonna end up taking a wrong turn because you're not completely guided by logic. And I don't know, maybe, but I believe God's faithful, and I think that it's just how I perceive the world, how I internalize things and feel about them and think about them, and it's really hard to explain to other people, like when I
Hmm.
come to a conclusion, because they're like, well, how did you do that?
Right. And if
Well,
they want to use the same method as you and they're not the same personality type as you, and even if they are, there's still nuances that are not the same, experiences that are not the same. There's four stories or your forward story, that's your vision, that's different. So you're headed maybe towards different point B's, And of course, you're not going to make the same decisions or you're going to think logically in the same exact way simply because you're not that other person, And so people have to realize that you need to celebrate your differences, not attempt to mold those people into your image just because they don't think like you. So that reminds me of a title of a book I want to write, or at best a blog post, and it goes like this, Deidre. So why can't you be normal like me?
Have I heard that a million times? Yes. Why
You
can't you
need to,
be
you guys
like me?
need to be normal like me. But see, that's the problem. No one is normal like you. There's things that you have in common that are personality traits. But again, you don't have the same experiences. Even if you're twins, you don't have the same experiences. You don't have the same dreams. You don't have people talking to you the same way. It's just a different personality type, slightly here, slightly there. So people have to celebrate their differences and not just rag on them all the time. Yeah,
Yeah, I think people are intimidated by what they don't understand, right? So
exactly,
sometimes we don't
exactly.
understand how we come to our own conclusions, how we operate, and stuff like that. And so we're bothered when someone else responds differently or thinks differently than us, and it disturbs us because we can't quite figure it out. And I don't know. I've been told my whole entire life, why can't you be more like your brothers and sisters?
Well, see, this is exactly what I
you
mean,
know,
right? So someone who says that to you, you got to dismiss them because they don't know what they don't know, and you need less of them in your life because they're going to steer you down the wrong road. They have got way too much thinking going on if they won't even let you be you. That's my thing, right? I'm going to let you be you, Deidre, and hopefully you'll let me be me, and we'll have the best interpersonal relationship possible because no judgments. We celebrate our differences. Oh, you think differently? Oh, great. We'll agree to disagree. No, some people got to pound it into my head that I'm a narcissist or that I'm like all these other derogatory terms that they think I am simply because, why? Because I share the truth with you? It's like, what? Go ahead.
do you think your perception could be wrong sometimes, that the truth that you think you see might not be the whole truth, or you might be missing a point? Have you ever been wrong? And if you have been wrong, have you ever said to that person, I'm wrong?
About the Bible, about
About
understanding the Bible.
about life. We're gonna take it out of the Bible and just talk about life. Like, have you ever been wrong and then said to somebody, "Hey, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I misjudged you," or
Oh, yeah. If it's not a biblical principle, sure. Like uh, the thing that I find that I have to apologize for the most is people don't understand me. So I'm too blunt. It's like, Roy, you hurt my feelings. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. And then I'll say to them, but you realize I can't do that, right? Yeah, 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 Roy, we know you can't do that. But, I just thought about this when you said that, and it was just hurtful. And I know you didn't cause it. I know I caused it myself, but could you not say that in the future? Yes, I will make a note of that. Definitely not to say that particular thing to you because now you're, making it known to me that you're sensitive to that. That I have to apologize for a lot because of who I am. It's not that I disrespect you. It's not that I don't love you. It's just I can't see why you can't see the answer at its lowest common denominator. If your teacher asks you to reduce the fraction 12 sixteenths to its lowest common denominator, I know how to do that. And that's where I come from. The lowest common denominator. I'm going to cut through the chase. I'm going to tell you bottom line here. This is the problem. So if you want to go divide by 2 or divide by 3 or divide by 4, you're still trying to figure out the problem when I already have the problem solved and give you the answer. And you're still trying to figure it out. And you're going like, what? That's where I get disconnected the most with people because they're not prepared for me. And I can't prepare them for me. They have to go get with someone else to prepare for me. But they don't see it that way. They don't have that perception. So they keep trolling me until, I just get tired or bored and say, okay, that's enough. I'm out. See you later. Bye. You know. And the other thing I apologize for a lot is, oh, you're so arrogant. It's like, no, I don't think you're better. I'm better than you. That's what arrogance says. Arrogance says, I think I'm more important than you. I don't. I'm equally as important as you. I'm a human being. You're a human being. But they don't think that. They don't feel that because they're thinking about something else. See, people know within nanoseconds whether this person reminds them of somebody in their past or in their present that's not so good to them. And they equate the same traits to me as they do these other people. If truth be known, I think that's pretty common. Oh yeah, I remember when so and so used to talk to me like Roy does. It's like, that is so arrogant. It's like, no, that person was arrogant, and you're projecting that on me, but it doesn't apply. Just saying. Hashtag. Okay.
See, when I get criticisms, I do tend to look at it as, okay, is this a mirror being held up? And then I look in the mirror and go, is this true? And then I try to determine from my relationship with God, my view of myself and my introspection and stuff, whether or not it's true or not. But I don't immediately disregard a criticism. And I guess for you, like, do you find that you have moments of introspection? Because sometimes we have to look in the mirror and go, oh wow, and then people can be that mirror for us. You're talking about being a prophet. I always think that person's a mirror for you. And when somebody comes up to you and goes, hey, when you said this, you were really rude, or when you said this, this is not the person I used to know. You gotta look in the mirror and go, well, did I just gain 10 pounds? Did my character just gain 10 pounds? What's going on?
Right.
In those moments of introspection, sometimes aren't always self-propelled. Do you find that people can do that for you sometimes, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can listen, if people know who I am and they know my love language and they know my personality type, then now they can speak to me the way that I can be heard by them. But very few people take the time to even do that. It's like, I'm going to talk to Roy like I talk to myself, and he's going to have to like it. And people don't even realize that the way you talk to other people is the way you talk to yourself.
You think so?
I know so. Think about it.
I disagree.
So
I disagree.
you treat you treat
I'm a lot harder on myself internally than I am to
so
other
you treat
people.
yourself better than you treat
I think
others?
I treat myself worse than I treat others. Like, that's just being me, being honest.
Really?
Yeah, really. And I'm just trying to show you that people do operate differently.
Okay. So do people treat themselves better than they treat others?
Depends on the person. So like for some people, like I do struggle with what was the word I'm looking for? There's a phrase I'm looking for. Oh, grace is kind of in my mind, but it's not that. It's I don't know, the idea of forgiving oneself, right, for one's failings. I internally struggle with that, but I don't want to put that internal struggle on other people. Does that make sense?
Well, it does if you answer this question in the affirmative. Do you have guilt associated with these things of which you speak?
Um, no, not really. I wouldn't put guilt, no.
So what is it that particular feeling would be? If it's not guilt, what would it be?
Um, I don't know. I don't know.
Would it be shame?
Maybe shame.
So shame and guilt are two of our greatest enemies because they will keep the story that needs to be told from being told. Do you understand what I'm saying? You will want to hide it because of the shame and the guilt that you feel, and you just can't bear it because sometimes, if not most times, going through it to heal is more painful than you experienced the first time round. And no one wants that. No one runs to pain. That's why we resist so much. That's why we yelp so much. And my one liner when I say, when you throw a rock into a pack of dogs, the one who yelps the loudest is the one that got hit. It's just when I speak, and then there's one or two or more people in the room that just want to just bite my head off, I know that they just got hit with what I just said, because if the truth hurts, it's supposed to. And that's what happens. And so I know that as long as that is happening, that there is hope for these people who are exhibiting being hit by the truth. It's the person that the truth doesn't bother like that is the one that I'm worried about. They've already become so desensitized to the truth that they're not even bothered by it anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain point where people can be unbothered by whatever they're doing that is actively wrong. I do think that's pretty scriptural. Actually, eventually people get given over to their evil desires or whatever. I think that's in Romans 1.
Exactly. They get so
But
desensitized.
but I think I'm talking more psychologically. Like I think that some people, because of where they've come from, there are people that exist that treat people better than they do themselves. Robin Williams was notoriously treating people well, but he didn't treat himself very well at the end, you could argue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally see what you're saying. Well, for me, I believe this following one-liner is true. Tell me if it is for you as well. The way you see a person is the way you treat that person.
I do think that's kind of true, and one of the reasons why I express that I think it's important to remember that we're all not only fearfully and wonderfully made, but that we are created in God's image, whether we're saved or unsaved, right? So this is why I'm a big proponent of treating people who are non-believers well, because as soon as you treat people like lesser people, I feel like that's sort of a sin, because we are created in God's image.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Yes, I do agree with you. Absolutely. So before anybody gets anything wrong about what I'm doing and what I'm saying here tonight, is that if a person is not prepared to be in my life, they can't be in my life, no matter how much they want to be. So right now I have this gal who wants to do a meet and greet with me over at Blab, and she expressed so a month ago, and I said I would. And then she asked me, "Well, are you going to record our one-to-one on Skype?" And I said, "Absolutely, I am." She goes, "Oh, I don't want to do it then." I said, "Okay." So about a month later, like yesterday or the day before, she comes into one of my blabs and she's like, "Why won't you do this with me? Can't you just do this one time and not do a recording?" And I'm like, "No, no, I need to record this." So when people want to meet with me, but yet they give me such a tough time to be their friend and they make me go through hoops. Seriously? Do you think I want to expend the bandwidth to be your friend? It's like, please step aside, let me pass. And so after about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes of her trying to get me to make a new decision to not record our meet and greet, I just let her know. I said, we should move on. This isn't getting anywhere. Do you see what I'm saying? It's that I am solid in my belief and what is right and what to do. And when people attempt to mold me into their image or get me to believe a lie, it won't happen. Can't happen. Go ahead.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I'm gonna start to wrap this up. I'm gonna head over to a couple of questions that I often ask other people. In your mind, what in the world here today that kind of compels you, or maybe even, like, dare I say, use an emotional terminology here, breaks your heart, like something that compels you to take action in the world. Is there anything like, some people have cited, like that they're really compelled, about world hunger or homelessness and things like that. Is there anything that for you tugs on your heart and that maybe you invest in, or perhaps you have been a voice for?
Great question. Absolutely. So what breaks my heart is seeing people who don't understand how to have a wonderful interpersonal relationship with anybody and everybody in their life. If a person will simply realize that the way they do anything is the way they do everything in their life, if they will just realize that and realize that in this area, when you do that, it's detrimental to you and the people around you. So stop doing that and replace it with a healthy habit, because obviously this is a bad habit. That's what breaks my heart, is when I see people suffering unjustly in relationships when it's like the blind leading the blind. And I just say, come on, guys, get with the program. Somebody pour into you. And if you'll let me, I will. But if not, I get it. So I don't think there's enough people going out and doing what I'm saying is what absolutely breaks my heart. And that is seeing bad relationships and doing nothing about them, not speaking up and saying, you know what, maybe you should rethink that. And here's why. Blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? So one of my friends here on Google Plus of 3 years um, asked me for some marital advice. After about 30, 40 minutes, he said, you ought to go into this. You're good at it. I thought that was just amazing to hear that. Um, I know I'm good at it, but I just didn't think that he would say that, even though he did ask me for feedback. So it surprised me as it was, you know, complimented to me by him. I just didn't think it. So it was like I took that as the Lord saying to me, "Well done," because it was out of the ordinary. You know what I'm saying? It's like a burning bush experience. So yeah, that's what breaks my heart, Deidre.
If you were to talk to like an unbelieving daughter or son, um, would you treat them as black and white as you do here online? Like God, yes or no? The truth, kind of. The things that you say. Do you think you would
Oh yeah,
speak in
absolutely,
the
in a
same
heartbeat.
standards? Yeah.
Yeah, even more so because they are my kids. I would hold them to even a higher standard, because other people's kids I can't do that with, but my own kids I can. So absolutely, because it's for their good, not mine. You know what I'm saying? It's like if they're in danger and I don't tell them in the quickest, fastest, most passionate way possible, if they don't know Dad means this is coming from the heart, even though it sounds hurtful, because if the truth hurts, it's supposed to. That's when it's time to make a course correction. And who you honor makes your decision. If you don't honor your parent or you don't honor God, then you're going to make the wrong choice every single time.
So you've moved on to Blab all the way, completely, just completely flipped over.
I'm, I'm completely in. Yep. I was
Okay.
in the minute I saw that place. It was like, this is the caliber of people over there is just so much higher than what I'm finding over here as far as what I want to do with my business.
Now,
And
are you completely business oriented or are you minister oriented over there?
no, I'm completely like 99.9% business, except when Nate opens up a room, and then I'll jump in and support him a little bit. So he's opened up maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of them in the last 4 months. And I just supported him like a couple days ago for a couple hours. But other than that, I don't don't jump in. It's just I've had my time with the religious discussions. It's time to move on to business relationships that actually are valuable, because I don't find any value uh, over here on G plus, and the ones that I've been in over there just to kind of watch. I didn't want to jump into any of the seats because I already know where that's going. Not much different than what's going on over here. There's really no intelligent conversations going on over there that I would want to jump in, except for like I said, the ones that Nate does, because I know those are always going to be intellectual. But I haven't found anybody else like Nate over there, or that I would like to support them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Not that
gotcha.
there isn't, not that there isn't, but I just haven't found it yet. But then again, I'm not looking that hard.
I gotcha. Well, I've heard some people are cross doing Blab and YouTube at the same time too, which is interesting. And I think Magic Sandwich is doing. I want to say I can't remember. It's not 4Channel. It's one of the other ones. And ends here. I cannot remember what they're on. Bond. I think they're
Mm-hmm.
on Bond Live. I hate Bond Live. But it's interesting that there's a lot of people that are cross, cross platforming and stuff like that and stuff. And I think now we have options in a lot of our encoders, like when I'm streaming from XSplit, to go to multiple sites, so I could actually perhaps maybe from Blab encode over to YouTube, which is crazy. So there's a lot of interesting ideas out there that are just like,
Yeah,
wow, that's crazy.
definitely.
But yeah, it's very interesting and complex and stuff. And I do like the Twitter integration in Blab. That's one thing I did like, was that I could tweet over there and it would be just cool. So that makes it convenient and stuff. But it seemed like you were obligated to be on camera, which you said later that you can use an avatar now.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think you can add an avatar other than the one that you have, and it just embeds itself in what their thing is, and it says audio only, and then it's got like on the bottom where it says that you have a poor internet signal, even if you don't. So that just automatically kicks in when a person doesn't have enough bandwidth to facilitate their camera and they can still hear their sound. It defaults to this picture. That's about the best we can do. So it's not like here, like you actually get shown your face and only your face. It's just your face is really small inside of their whole entire banner. And I'm really the only one over there doing this as far as being off cam and audio only, and I get grief for it almost every time, which I don't care, because I'm here to show you that you don't need my face to build a deep, intimate relationship with me. I can do it with just my voice, and I don't need to see your face and body language. I don't care if you tell me it's 80%. It doesn't matter, because voice is 100% for me. If I can't build a relationship with you based solely on your voice, then you need to get away from me.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, Skylar, way earlier in chat, was asking why you don't ever get on camera, and I don't get on camera often either, so I didn't really ask the question. But since on rare occasions, I do go on camera, very rare. I'm curious. Have you ever got on camera?
Yeah, I was on cam for like 4.5 years. And then I said, guys, this is way too much work. Let me see what happens when I go off cam, if it's still as much work. And it was so much easier.
You had to do your
So,
makeup and get ready.
exactly. Haha.
I'm
So,
kidding, but
no, it was how other people treated me, because I don't sit still. I don't have to sit still. And I don't have to answer to anybody who asks me, where'd he go?
oh, do you
Where'd he go? It's
wander? Are
none of
you a
your business.
wanderer?
Oh, yeah. I'm a pacer. Yes.
Okay, like Preachin' Sean. Have you ever watched Preachin' Sean? He like takes us for rides. He's like I think he's on his phone or something, and we're just moving around his whole house. He's like in the garage.
Oh,
He's
no, I
eating.
just stay in my, yeah, I just pace back and forth. I got 4 screens here. So I just walk my office, just walk back and forth in my office with my eyes closed, especially when I'm on a very, very, very focused topic. And so I do things a lot differently than I do here when it's business oriented, of course, because um, here's the funny thing, Deidre. So I've been on Blab for 4 months, and I already have over 1,100 people following me, and I've been on Blab, or excuse me, on Twitter for 8 years, and I never even crossed 1,000 follower mark in 8 years. So I did on Blab in 4 months what I couldn't do on Twitter in 8 years.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is. It's an amazing platform. It is my promised land. I don't know how else to say it to people. It is just amazing. And I love it over there.
That's crazy. That's interesting. That is really interesting. Um, okay, so we got one last, I guess, a question from live chat from Mike. He says, "What about correcting a fool?" I'm not quite sure how he means that question, but let's assume, let's take it charitably and say, if there was someone that you would consider a fool, is it worth correcting them? I can't hear you. Are you muted?
I'm sorry. Yes, I was. Um, yeah, you don't engage in their foolishness when answering them. You just mimic back to them what they've said, and they'll see their own foolishness in the reflection because they're unaware that what they're saying is foolish. And when you repeat it back to them, they'll see their error of their ways. And that's how you answer a fool.
Gotcha. So I'm going to actually close this chat out in a second with a final question. And then my final question is whether you're on Blab doing religious discussions, and since I'm still part of the debate community, and I know you're starting to shift out of that, but whether you're on Blab or you're on YouTube, what do you think is the most noble thing? What should we rally around and shoot for as Christians here on these kind of platforms?
Love. Above all, love those who are unlovely. Love those who are confused out of their cords. Just love them to death. And I do that. And if anybody says that they don't feel love from me after engaging me for some hours, then I'm going to have to say they're lying.
And how do you put love in action, Roy?
By telling people the truth, whether they want to hear it or not, whether they want to rail against it or not. They just when people are told the truth that they believe to be a lie because they've they've put their whole entire worldview on that particular lie. And that's very, very tough. People don't want to give up their worldview, even if it's wrong. And so, my particular lot in life, my universal assignment, my God assignment, if you will, is to tell people the truth about what they don't know is true. And if they want to rail against me, how do I know this? They're not for me. And I'm going to have to say pass, talk to the hand, talk to somebody else, and that's really tough to do when you're the only one that's on that page with them, or yeah, there's too many people in the room that are all trying to ask the next question when you can't discuss it with someone who. So if there's two or more people in the room who are confused and they're both coming at me, that's it. I'm done. You got to take your turn one at a time. I got to address issues one at a time, and you got to stick to the apple. Any orange questions will be passed.
Gotcha. All right, so we're gonna wrap up this. Thanks for anybody that's participated in the live chat. Anyone that's asked questions. Roy, thank you for your time. I do appreciate that you took time
My
with me.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for even asking me. I appreciate it. I got a chance to get to know myself a little bit better by doing this. It's been a while since I've actually went this deep. So thank you for the great questions, Deidre.
Yeah, and I wish you all the luck on your business and Blab, and also now
Thank
that I
you
have your
so
phone
much.
number, I think you live really close to me. By
Oh,
the way,
really?
yeah.
Well, if you're in
um,
the San Diego
yeah,
area,
I'm in San Diego.
then then we're not
I
because I'm in
Okay,
the Kern River Valley area, which
okay,
is still 760.
okay. So you're
Same
up.
as San Diego areas. Yeah, we're probably still about 6 hours away
Oh, okay.
as the car drives.
I was gonna say, like, I thought maybe you were Escondido or something. I was like, oh wow, holy
Yeah,
crap! I
no,
didn't
no.
realize that.
I'm to about 200 miles north of Los Angeles still, so it's quite a ways
Oh,
still.
okay.
It's really weird. Yeah, I found that out too. It's like, what?
760
760
is freaking
up
huge
here?
then.
Are you
Yeah,
kidding me? Yeah.
yeah, because that's where Escondido is, about right there. So I
Weird.
just never mind then.
Yeah, California's weird.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely do appreciate your time. I wish you all the luck on blab. Sometimes I do swing over and see Nate on blab. I don't know. I guess I should ask Nate himself. But is he completely flipped over to blab, or is he trying to straddle both, or what's the word on that?
I don't know. He's kind of in between what he should be doing. He just had the hankering to hang out on Blab the other day, and he liked the experience. So maybe he might do there more than he's doing over on G Plus these days. So I think that's what he's leaning towards. You haven't seen him for a while?
No, not much. Every so often he'll comment or something, and we'll be on the same string or something. But I haven't seen him a whole lot, so I was just wondering. But I should ask Nate himself because I do have ways to do that. So, but I do appreciate your time. It's been good.
It has. Thank you so much. You're a gracious host. Thank you. I loved every second of it.
Yep. And so I'm gonna close off, and I'm just gonna try to urge everybody. And I failed at this probably this last week to try to be kind to everybody, and to be charitable. And as Will Wheaton likes to say, don't be a dick. And I think that's pretty key.